Hello everyone from Chelsea Fan TV. We're outside Stamford Bridge after a 2-0 win against Brentford in the Premier League. Charlie, we were at the protest beforehand. It was organised for 1 o'clock, and then obviously we had the game after. I'll give you the choice. What would you prefer to talk about first?
I'll go with the game.
We'll go with the game.
Yeah, we'll go with the game, mate. Just relieved, to be honest. I don't know how we managed that, because for large parts of that game it was really poor. It was a tough watch. Some of the worst football I think I've seen in a long time played by us. Yeah, no, mate, it wasn't good. Defensively, we were all over the place, constantly slowing attacks down. I don't know what we're doing from corners and free kicks, constantly going short, knocking it around, going back, not putting balls into the box. It wasn't a particularly good performance, and we got through on two moments. You know, Enzo Fernandez blocks that clearance, it falls to Pedro, it's a brilliant finish, and also we get the penalty as well, which is good work from Delap. But we basically got by on two moments, and I'm not complaining about that at all, because in the short term we just have to get points on the board. That's all that matters. But going forward, longer term, you're going to have to start putting some level of decent performance together. And in the first two games, well, first three games, I know we beat Charlton, but first two proper games as such, I think the performances have been really poor. But, you know, we got the result today, and that's ultimately all that matters.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? You've got to combine performances with results. Maresca was able to get enough results that the performances were sort of not negated, but people didn't talk about them as much, because you could say the two trophies in the Champions League. What does Rosinha have to do to basically shut fans up?
We've just got to keep winning at the end of the day. That's what it's about. You know, in the short term, results is what matters. But if you can get consistent good performances will lead to sustained success and sustained results. So that's what it's got to find. It's got to find that balance. He's still not been here very long, so I'm not surprised there's a few teething issues. I'm not surprised that once again we looked poor defensively. There are a number of changes mid-game in defensively as well. I know Tosin went off injured, but particularly that first half, mate. I mean, there was a particularly poor defensive moment from Chalobah, and then Sanchez had to stop and almost toss an own goal. I think I can't remember the player's name, but someone hits the outside of the post as well. And then second half, I mean, when Sharda's through 1-on-1, I thought that was it. That was a goal. But Sanchez with a fantastic save to really keep us in it. I mean, I don't know how Brentford didn't score, but you know, you take those. You know, we've played better this season and not won games like that. So you got to take it kind of both ways, in terms of you're not always going to play well. But when you do play well, sometimes you won't get the result. When you play badly, you will get the result. It's kind of just the way it goes. But yeah, there wasn't much to be sort of positive about other than the result. But really, that's the only thing that matters.
What do you make of Sanchez? Because compared to the Arsenal game, it was very, very different. He was going direct more often, not looking to mess around. We gave the ball away, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like it was in a dangerous area.
No, I noticed there must have been a bit of a change there, because against Arsenal we're literally knocking it short every time. You know, centre back passing it to the goalkeeper, then goalkeeper going back again or whatever. This time, you know, balls were going a lot longer. I wonder if that was a conscious choice because of how badly it went in that game against Arsenal. Not that we conceded goals from it, but we just looked so shaky, nervous, giving the ball away. And Sanchez's distribution, some of those long balls were really good. There was a brilliant one in the first half where he picked out Neto. So yeah, I mean, look, to be honest, Sanchez is part of the reason why we've probably won this game today. Because if Brentford had got that back at 1-1 with Kevin Sharda, I generally felt that was going to go the same way as the Brighton game at home and the same way as the Sunderland game at home. We weren't going to win that.
You know, it's an interesting debate with Sanchez, because there's some people who go, well, we still need to bring in another goalkeeper, etc. And there's other people who will go, he's not necessarily an Ederson or an Alisson, but as a traditional goalkeeper, not necessarily good with his feet. Everything else, though, he's very, very reliable.
Yeah, no, he's been good. It depends what you're looking for. If you're looking to challenge for a title and win a Premier League title, I think you need to do better. If you're happy with coming 4th and 5th and winning the odd cup, then he does the job and he's fine. So it depends what the club's aspirations are and how serious they are about pushing forward and challenging for a Premier League title. In my opinion, you're not going to challenge or win the major trophies with Sanchez in goal.
Let me just put it like this then. You put Sanchez in a top team at Liverpool City. Do you think he affects their chances of winning the league?
Potentially, but with a much better 11 in front of him or 10 in front of him, you know, that then doesn't matter as much. But I mean, if you put him in goal for Arsenal will probably still win the league this season because the rest of their team's so good. I think if we had a better team in general, then Sanchez in goal perhaps doesn't matter as much. But if you're looking to push forward and go to the next level, I'm still yet to be convinced that he's someone that is capable of doing that.
What about Reece James under Rosinha? Because it looked like he was inverting at times as well today. Not necessarily as comfortable as usual, especially on the ball. It looked like a little bit more rushed. But maybe that's part of the problem when you allow players to take X amount of touches, right? Because then players are going to come and press you.
I mean, to be honest, I thought both fullbacks were quite poor today. I thought they both struggled. I felt Cucurella wasn't particularly good. I think James struggled as well. And look, it's interesting to see kind of how Rossini looks to use Reece James. Is he going to play him at right back more? Is he going to play him in midfield more? Bit of both. How often is he going to play? All these sorts of things. Look, Reece didn't particularly have a great game today. Neither did neither fullback. But going forward, I haven't got any doubts about the quality of both of those players. But this game specifically, neither of them were particularly great.
It's interesting as well because when Tosin, was it Tosin who came on? I can't remember.
Fofana came on. Howe came on.
Right.
Those two.
There was a bit of a lift from the crowd. They were very happy with the substitutes.
Yeah, well, Tosin, I don't think Tosin was that great, to be honest. Fofana came on, he makes a difference. He's good in the air despite not being necessarily the tallest. His recovery pace is very good. And you just feel more comfortable with him at the back than you do with a Tosin, for example. Chalobah, apart from that moment in the first half, I think he defended reasonably well. And yeah, look, you can tell that we're still not at it defensively. You can tell that we're not a good defensive unit at the moment. You can tell that there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And you can tell the required quality is not there. You can tell that the players that he's got at his disposal haven't got the skill sets that he's looking for to play the way that he wants to play. But we have to make do with what we've got at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, the midfield is one area that I think Rossini, in my opinion, is going to try and revolutionise a little bit. And that's just because he has a relationship with a player like Santos. I don't mind Fernandes. No. I'm hearing the rumours of PSG, and I'm saying to myself, would I like Fernandes to go? No. Is there other midfielders that can come in this team and improve Chelsea and potentially fill that void? Probably yes.
But would you go? The thing is, though, would you go for them? Would we sign them? That's the big thing. I think today in the midfield you could tell that with that pivot of Enzo and Caicedo, it just gets overrun.
This is the problem. This is almost 200. It's over 200 million pounds in the midfield.
But as a pivot, it seems to just get overrun quite consistently in games. And you notice as soon as we went to a three-man midfield, things looked a lot more solid. Brentford weren't getting quite as much joy from the middle of the pitch. I think if you're going to do that, I think the three-man midfield suits Enzo much better, but it also, I think, just suits the balance of the team better as well. And Enzo further forward up the pitch is not necessarily a bad thing either. I think he's good there. There's not as much defensive responsibility. He's good at arriving in the box at the right place at the right time, and he can stick the ball in the back of the net as well. So I think it's going to be interesting to see because you could obviously tell that pivot and that two-man midfield in the first half just wasn't working.
So do you see Enzo as a player who box crashes, or do you prefer what you saw, for example, let's just say under Potter when he was much deeper and he was orchestrating everything?
It depends, because against Arsenal he was very, very good, and he played in a pivot really. But if he's deeper and he's got that range of passing like we saw against Arsenal, I don't mind him there. But I think week in, week out, I think for a consistency point of view, I think he probably is better higher up the pitch with a pivot of a Santos on a Caicedo or a Lavia Caicedo whenever Lavia gets himself back fit again. I think that's going to be better form, and I think the team will get better results as a result of that.
What about Palmer? Because he got moved over to the wing. Loads of people saying around me, thank God, we've been waiting for this. This is where he plays his best football. Still didn't score an open play goal, scored a penalty. No. Father said, he needed that goal. But for me, it's like, when João Pedro got signed, I saw 5 goals in open play and 5 penalties. Penalties is great, but it's only great if you're also scoring an open play and you're also getting assists, etc. There's only so much you can do with penalties. I hope it's a confidence boost. I hope it gets him going. But for me, I don't know. I'm struggling to see Palmer being an influencer in this team at the moment. He looks to me as a player that is just there.
Yeah.
And a luxury player? I mean, that's a bit harsh, but I know what you mean. Like, what's your take on that situation? How do we get the best out of Palmer?
I don't really know the answer to that question. I felt in the first half he was particularly poor. He looked like a passenger. He was slowing attacks down. He was giving the ball away. He wasn't really offering much. I thought he really struggled, mate. I thought he really struggled when he moved out to the right. When he was moved out to the right hand side when Santos came on, it was a little bit better. Obviously, the penalty is a goal. It's a great penalty. We needed that. And he was maybe a bit better when he went out to the right hand side, but. He's not looked right since he's come back from the injury. He just hasn't really looked 100%, hasn't looked fully fit, hasn't looked match sharp. And, at times I think it is becoming a bit of a problem at certain points. For me, he shouldn't just be guaranteed to be in the 11. He's got to earn his place like everyone else does. I don't think it would do him any harm if he was benched necessarily for a few games potentially. But Yeah,
He's got an attitude problem.
No, I don't think so. No, but I just think we're finding it difficult to get the best out of him at the moment. He's in a proper stop-start season. He's come back. Yes, he's got 3 goals since he's come back. But in terms of overall impact on a game, overall influence on a game and open play, we're still waiting for that. And it's kind of at times in this game I was like thinking, what's happened to him? What's up with him? You know, something just doesn't look right. I felt like we were carrying him in as a bit of a passenger, certainly in that first half. And look, we can only hope things get better going forward. The more games he plays, the more he's going to get into a rhythm. He's going to find his form again. But that's probably one of the biggest things that Rossini has got to sort out. Defensively, we've got to sort out, and he's got to try and get Palmer back to his best.
It's such a weird situation because he was so great under Poch, but there was a lot of negatives under Poch, and we were coming from a terrible situation. There was positives under Maresca, but there's also a lot that you dislike, and it's all about finding that balance now. And the question is, where are we going to find that balance? How are we going to score our goals? How are we going to play more attractive football? How are we going to stop conceding goals and then bring that in together so that you get the support of the home crowd, who, to be honest with you, are still not convinced of what they're seeing?
It was flat today, mate. Really flat. Very quiet at times. Frustration with how we were playing, especially in that first half. A lot of playing around at the back. A lot of attacks being slowed down instead of going direct at players. Having a little go, then turning around, going backwards, allowing Brentford to get back into their shape, and then making things very difficult for us. It's going to take time. It is going to take time. The problem is we haven't got time. We've got games coming thick and fast. We're 6th in the league. We're bang up against it for Champions League football. We haven't got the time. We've just got to find a way.
Well, I guess just to finish off, do you think we can do it?
What, Champions League football? I don't know. Today was must win in terms of getting a Champions League football. But you look at the fixtures we've still got left, and we're going to be bang up against it. The only reason we're kind of still in play is because of how inconsistent and how poor everyone else has been in and around us. Because, mate, we're 2 wins in 10 in the league.
Well, let's just hope we're less poor than everyone else then.
Well, exactly, mate. That's what we've got to hope for. Less poor than everyone else. But, yeah, we just got to keep going, keep trying to find a way and kind of hope for the best. But, yeah, I don't know. We're going to be bang up against it. I think it's going to go right down to the final day again.
See what happens. Thanks so much, my friend. Good to see you, buddy. You got nice warm hands.